The village of Skibidi was small and peaceful. It was nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river. The villagers were content. They farmed the land and lived simple lives. 12-year-old Raue was no different. He helped his father in the fields. He played with his friends. But Raue had a secret. He was a gifted fighter. Raue was small for his age, but he was incredibly quick and strong. He had been training with his father since he could walk. His father had given him a small, beautifully crafted sword. It was called the Tatsuka blade. It was sharper than any other sword in the village. One day, the peaceful life in Skibidi ended. A neighboring empire, the Empirodous Empire, declared war. The Empirodous Empire was vast and powerful. It was led by the ruthless King Charles. He was known for his cruelty and his thirst for power. Fear gripped the villagers of Skibidi. They knew that King Charles would stop at nothing to conquer their land. Raue's father, along with the other villagers, began to fortify their homes. They prepared for the worst. Raue wanted to help. He was told to gather wood from the nearby forest. It was a simple task, but it would change his life forever. The forest was dark and dense. The air was thick with the smell of pine needles and damp earth. Raue ventured deeper into the forest. He searched for suitable wood. The sound of his own footsteps seemed to echo through the silent trees. Suddenly, Raue heard a low growl. He froze. He slowly turned towards the sound. There, in a small clearing, was a sight that made his heart pound in his chest. It was a dragon, but this was no ordinary dragon. This dragon was massive. Its scales were the color of midnight. They shimmered like polished obsidian in the dappled sunlight. It was chained to an ancient, moss-covered altar. Thick iron shackles bound its legs. A heavy collar encircled its long neck. The dragon saw Raue. It let out a deafening roar. It breathed a plume of smoke into the air. Raue was terrified, but he stood his ground. Raue cautiously approached the dragon. He saw the pain in its glowing orange eyes. He felt a surge of sympathy for the creature. He decided he would help. He would free the dragon. Every day Raue visited the dragon. He brought it food and water. He talked to it. He told it stories about his life in the village. He told it about his fears of the approaching army. Slowly, the dragon began to trust Raue. Raue started trying to break the dragon free. He tried prying open the shackles with his small sword, but the iron was too thick. He tried using his strength to loosen the chains, but they wouldn't budge. Years passed. Raue grew older. He became stronger, but he never gave up on the dragon. Finally, after 10 long years, Raue succeeded. He broke the last chain. The dragon was free. It rose into the air with a roar that shook the forest. It soared through the sky. It circled back to Raue. It lowered its head in gratitude. Raue knew what he had to do. He climbed onto the dragon's back. Together, they flew towards Skibidi. They would defend his village from King Charles and his army. The villagers were shocked to see Raue riding a dragon. They had feared he was dead. Their shock turned to joy, then to hope. Raue's father embraced his son. He was filled with pride. Raue was no longer a boy. He was a man. He was their protector. The ground shook beneath the might of the Empirodous army. King Charles's soldiers marched towards Skibidi. They were prepared for an easy victory. They had not expected a dragon. The black dragon unleashed a torrent of fire. It engulfed the first line of soldiers. Their screams echoed across the battlefield. The remaining soldiers were terrified, but they continued to advance. Their orders were clear: take the village, kill anyone who resisted. Raue, atop the dragon, fought alongside his fellow villagers. He moved with a speed and ferocity that belied his small stature. The Tatsuka blade, now gleaming with an otherworldly light, cut through the enemy ranks. King Charles, enraged by the unexpected resistance, entered the fray. He wielded a sword that crackled with dark energy. He charged at the dragon. The dragon met the king's attack head-on. The two clashed in a blinding flash of light and shadow. Raue knew he had to act. He leaped from the dragon's back. He landed before King Charles. He raised his small sword. He charged into battle. He was ready to sacrifice himself for his village, for his father, for his friend. The battle was fierce. Raue fought with the courage of a lion. He dodged the king's attacks. He countered with blows of his own. Finally, with a desperate lunge, Raue struck true. His blade pierced the king's heart. King Charles let out a roar of agony. He collapsed to the ground. He was defeated. His army, leaderless and demoralized, fled. Skibidi was safe. Raue, exhausted but exhilarated, watched as the dragon landed beside him. The villagers erupted in cheers. They had won. They were free. Raue, his father, and the black dragon stood together. They were heroes. The village of Skibidi would never forget their bravery. And so peace returned to the small village, nestled between the rolling hills and the sparkling river.